they passed some of this information along to me. And yes, that's one of the things that in turn has certainly come very much to my knowing, and that is that I know as I sit here how our civilization is restrained in terms of anything that's non-physical. We don't know anything about it in any way, shape, or form. And the options that are available to us after we are no longer physical here, instead of being, one of them, of course, is being the human addict and go back and live another life because you get addicted to being human. But there are so many other opportunities or options along that spectrum of energy. And one of them is to go and, I'll put it in the crude way, I try to make it in ways that we can understand it now. Of course. And that is to shake the hand of the Creator and say, well, this is a great job. Not prostrate and in adoration, but just to say, you're a real smart one. All right?
Wow. All right, Mr. Monroe, let's go to the phones. Every one of them's locked up and wants to talk to you.
All right, go ahead.
Let's do it. On the wild card line, you're on the air with Robert Monroe. Good evening.
Hello there, this is Fritz calling. When Shirley MacLaine's 5-hour television special, Out on a Limb, was aired way back in January of '87, some of her highlights was astral projection. It did make a lot of waves. Of course, her book with the same title did make the radio and television interview circuit years before that, and many millions of people were exposed to the OOB subject. Now, Robert, we need another catalyst to push that subject to the people's attention. After all, they could join the Cosmic College for free.
Yes, indeed. Well, we have not made a big point of being widely known yet. We did a flight study to indicate how many users have been used in the methods that we have available and put forth out of demand, but not out of advertising. And we figure that there have been a little over 2.5 million users of these various types of exercises on tape that we put out through the years. And these are a means of beginning to do the very things that you're talking about.
Mr. Monroe, I recall he mentioned Shirley MacLaine.
Yeah, another thing, that reminds me. I got very amused that in Shirley's movie, in her picture, I think she was the one that went into a bookstore looking for something, and right in front of her eyes was my book, Far Journeys, I think it was.
Yes.
It was very funny, and I thought,
She alluded to the possibility or claimed that she had traveled toward the moon away from the Earth. Mr. Monroe, there are limitations that we believe we face physically with travel to other planetary systems with regard to the speed of light and all the rest of it. I'm sure you're well aware of that. Might out-of-body experiences be a way ultimately to travel where otherwise we may never go?
Absolutely. We did a great deal of that in the mid 70s. And these were engineers and physicists principally. And we saw all the stuff on the moon before our shuttles and stuff got there. We went out to Mars and out beyond that. The trouble is that we found that we got nervous about going beyond the solar system, knowing how we might get back. We might get lost, until we found out it was very simple. All we had to do is to think back to our physical body, even though we may be 100 light years away, and we'd have no problem at all getting back. And you didn't even to know, and you say, well, where have you been? Out there. We couldn't say where.
Out there. Well, maybe NASA should be talking to the Monroe Institute.
We've had some NASA people through.
Oh, you have?
Oh, yeah.
On the wildcard line, you're on the air with Robert Monroe. Hello.
Hello, Mr. Bell. This is Tom out of Seattle.
Yes, sir.
Oh, my God, I finally got through. This is incredible. I've had out-of-body experiences, I think, starting back when I was about 13.
Yes.
I thought they were nightmares and things like that.
Yeah.
And as I progressed through my life, I remember about 17 it got more severe, and then got away from home. And then in my late 20s, it got extremely severe. And, I didn't know they were out-of-body experiences, that they were nightmares and something, freaky. And then all of a sudden I started having control over it and kind of enjoying it.
Good for you. Good for you.
And then, all of a sudden, just like you were just saying earlier about that actress, I walked into a bookstore, and lo and behold, I'd never been there before. I didn't know what I went in there for. There was your book in front of my eyes.
Very good.
And I started studying it, and then I started practicing it.
Good for you.
And I never felt so good, spiritually or physically, after I'd go out of my body and then come back. And then I started, over a period of time, losing the power. I don't know what I was doing wrong. I just felt there was, I don't know, it's kind of hard to explain. There's something very weird. I was experimenting with it. I actually did 2 experiments, unscientifically, of course. I'm just a truck driver, but proved it to other people that I actually got out of my body, went by them and did things, and could see things while I was supposedly asleep, which I wasn't. You know what I'm talking about.
I can tell you one that I had to do out of desperation to be sure somebody understood it years and years ago. I went and I pinched this woman in her side. It left a bruise.
Oh, my. Oh, my. And so then it is possible to have physical manifestations during an out-of-body experience.
What I was doing, I discovered years later, was that I was not pinching her physical body, I was pinching this other body.
Oh.
You see, and that's what left a bruise on the physical. But it was so astonishing because I didn't think I pinched her that hard at all. It was on right just above her, around her waist, up above her hips.
Very discreet of you, sir.
Yes, it was discreet.
All right, on the wild card line, you're on the air with Robert Monroe. Hello.
Hi, this is John. Let me turn down my radio.
Thank you. Please remember to do that, everybody, right away, please. We have a delay system.
Okay. I have a question for Robert Monroe.
Yes.
I read his book, both of his books, in fact. I read Journeys Out of the Body and also Far Journeys. And, Mr. Monroe, I have a question for you. In your book, Journeys Out of the Body, you talk about this one incident where you have the intent of visiting this one person at this house. You give his initials as EW.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And before you do this, you end up going to this garage, and after that you wonder why you ended up there instead of visiting this one person. And later you visit this area, and you find out that there were these power primaries near the garage.
Well, the thing is that, go ahead.
And you said they had a fairly high voltage.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And then in the book you say, do electric fields attract the second body, and is this the medium through which it travels? And I thot that was kind of interesting.
Well,
yes,
I've since learned, of course, that it's not electromagnetic. That's for sure. We've become very acutely aware of an energy field that our science knows nothing about because of the simple reason they can't measure it. And you are using this right now. In other words, Skip was talking about brainwave patterns, but these are generated by this other energy field, and they're the effect, and the causative factor is this other energy field.
And there is no relationship to the electromagnetic energy?
No, not as such.
All right.
We tested that very thoroughly.
On the wild card line, you're on the air with Robert Monroe. Hello.
Yes, good evening. This is Brian from KOPE country down here in Medford.
Yes, Brian, you have a question?
Yes, I'm just curious if he answered one of them partially. I had 2 of them, then you were talking about documented proof of this experience happening, and so if you have someone pinching a woman, but has there been scientific studies done with that they have documented? And second, if you're out there somewhere and something happens to your physical body, what happens to you out there then?
Well, it depends on how much it happens. One of the things that gets you back to your physical body, and you're out having a wonderful time doing all these things, and you get an urge, a signal to come back. And as in the early times, you were concerned, something's going wrong, the building's on fire where my body is, and all this kind of thing. And you know what the most common thing that pulls you back is the fact that your bladder is full.